Hello, everybody. Welcome to Business Talks. I'm your host, Ruth, and today I'm with Lucas Leong from Alta Foods.
Thank you. Hi, Ruth.
Hi. Can you just give us a brief description about yourself and your company, your business?
Sure. So my name is Lucas. I'm 23 years old. I used to work in accounting within London, and then I quit in 2019 February to start up my own business. Alta Foods I launched very recently during the end of March 2020. Primarily, quite simply put, Alta Foods delivers ready-made Asian meals to your doorstep. And these meals are pre-cooked, pre-packaged. They can hang in your freezer for up to 1 month. And all it takes to cook is to reheat by boiling in water for 10 to 15 minutes.
That's amazing. The other question that I have is, you're saying that the food is pre-packaged and then delivered. Is this something we can buy in the supermarket, or is this something that you're looking to reach out to do?
So currently, Alta Foods works primarily as a distribution and logistics brand. What we do is we partner up and collaborate with restaurants in London right now.
Okay.
They cook and prepare the stuff and package it, and we distribute it and come on board with the marketing to brand it into its own format and to sell that on retail on our website. We're currently only doing direct to consumer, but in the future, wholesaling to supermarkets would be a great revenue stream for us. But currently, we have our hands pretty much tied up right now, especially during the lockdown virus. So we are doing what we can.
Okay. And so are you looking for investment to grow so you can get these distributed through supermarkets?
Currently not right now.
Okay.
So to give you some context, I launched Alta Foods at the end of March, as I said.
Yes.
And then our first sort of sale when the website went live was on the 12th of April. And since then, it's been around 3 weeks to date. Each week, we've seen an increasing number of customers and reorders from existing customers. In terms of investment, I think we're pretty much a long way away from having to seek investment right now. The idea right now is to create an impact with our branding during the virus. And then after the lockdown, when the lockdown is lifted and the virus has gone away, it's to maintain our customer base and to expand and scale up with our new customers.
And how many restaurants are you currently with at the moment? Is it one chef?
So yeah, currently we're collaborating with one renowned Chinese restaurant in London. Alta Foods, I do want it to continue to produce mainly Asian food. The idea for Alta Foods stemmed from the fact that you have a lack of ready-made Asian meals within the UK. As Asian as it gets in a lot of supermarkets, it's normally Thai or Indian. But in terms of the variety of Chinese, Japanese, and other Asian ethnicities, their offerings, it's very limited. Those supermarkets which do existing Asian meals, which aren't Indian Thai like Tesco's, they do sort of Chinese sweet and sour chicken. The reviews online are quite shocking. And in my opinion, I think that it's because Chinese food is very delicate. There's a lot of ingredients and a lot of different ratio of sources. So it can't be something that's easily produced by anyone. That's why with Alta Foods, we collaborate with quality chefs who work at restaurants, and we partner up with them so that they can produce their offerings and we can distribute that out to other people.
And so how did you come up with this idea? Because there is obviously, you're saying there's a limited amount, but
yeah.
What makes yours unique?
So to give you some context or background, I grew up within sort of the food and beverage world. And I declare myself as a huge foodie, right? I love eating all sorts of food from all sorts of regions. I think food is a great way to meet different cultures and to get to know someone. The reason for Alta Foods is mainly because I think, in my opinion, and this is very personal, but within the UK, the Western cultures, we're very conservative with our choices of food. If you look at the UK food offering and the F&B industry, the types of cuisines that we offer in the UK are very limited compared to, say, America. I like to say that America is 5 years ahead in terms of the food and beverage interest curve. You have in America, Mexican and Korean fusion cuisines, that sell on food trucks. Whereas here, we are starting to see an increase in different consumer tastes. But one thing that kind of annoyed me was every time I went out for dinner to a Chinese restaurant with my Western friends who grew up here, or in the EU, they would always order the same thing, and there would be very generic things like stir fry, black bean sauces, sweet and sour sauces. And I think it's a shame because in terms of the Chinese cooking cuisine, there's so much more offering, whereas people aren't that. They tend to be more risk averse. They don't really want to go and try out new things unless you really order it for them and you push for them to order it. So one reason for Alta was to order to produce different alternative dishes. So these are things which you might not typically order at a restaurant, but you could eat at home instead, and it's more in the comfort of your own home as well. So that's why on Alta I use more dishes which are more provincial Chinese based. Like we have a dongbo red braised pork belly, and that's very unique to a certain province of China, and that's not something you would always eat in your everyday Chinese restaurant or takeaway.
The other question is your your packaging.
Yeah.
Which seems a little bit unique and different
as
well.
Yeah.
Can you just explain about the packaging it comes in?
So the packaging is very simple. Within the cooking world, there's a technique which is used by many French restaurants called sous vide cooking. And sous vide cooking is generally where you take a piece of meat or fish or vegetables and you vacuum seal it so it's airtight. And then you put it into a large water bath at a regulated temperature. So if you think about it, the moment you air seal the packaging, you create no gaps for air. So when you boil it in water for a prolonged period of time, the heat only focuses on the targeted areas which are packed tightly. There's no air gaps for the air to circulate and to allow cooking for mixed processes. Our packaging is very similar to this concept. Everything is pre-cooked, so the customer never has to worry about anything being raw. Simply everything is cooked, batch cooked, and then put into an ice bath to cool down to a good temperature before being frozen. It's blast chilled and frozen, and then we pack it and we ship it out. You can hang it in the freezer for up to 1 month. And all you have to do is take out the packaging from the freezer, put it into a pot of boiling water, and let it sit for 15 minutes to heat up. The packaging, at the current moment, it's a very minimum viable product packaging, but we are looking at making our packaging a bit more nice and elegant in the future.
Can you just explain how you got your investment to start actually, making the products, contacting the restaurant, and to actually just start?
So one thing I like to do when I think of a startup is always to minimize the cost as much as possible. And I'd also like to have a lot of control over what I can oversee at the beginning of the phase. To me, I literally just sat down and thought, well, to build a minimum viable product, what does the MVP have to contain and what does it have to do? And in simple terms, it's all about when you sell prepackaged food, it's the labeling, listing out the ingredients, the allergens, one of the main core crucial components. And then it's, well, okay, we can put it into a vacuum patch bag, but does it look nice? So then what if we added some card to it, added the sticky label to it to make it more unique, a bit more contemporary? So my minimum cost for that was very low. It was extremely low. And then the second part of sort of, if you talk about investment, was just leveraging my network. Having grown up within the F&B industry, I have a lot of close contacts with restaurants in London. And so I approached them on a basis of saying, hey, you do really great products. I think you can get them to consumers at home. What if I had a platform, a brand, which distributes these out to other people? We would just pay for the small costs and take a commission of the cut sales, but then it generates a new revenue cash stream for you as well. And that's where it all got going with this one restaurant in Chinatown.
Oh, you didn't get any hurdles of rejections at the beginning?
No. So I launched on April the 12th. That's when the website fully went up, and then we had a few sales straight away, and then it got picked up by a few Singaporeans who live in London. And then the next day, I actually had a few restaurants contact me asking if I could help them distribute as well. So I think because when you consider in terms of distribution and logistics, it's a very sort of complex matter. And it's a lot of work for a restaurant with a brick and mortar store to then expand into doing something online as well at the same time, with their already, huge overheads already. So in essence, a lot of restaurants have been trying to approach me asking if I could help them out as well. But for the time being, I think, whilst lockdown is in effect, this is more or less impossible.
Yes, yes, I understand. Because if you have more restaurants, you're going to need, more manpower to pick up.
Right. Yeah. And there's also a lot more regulation, making sure that what the restaurants produce is of good quality, and just ironing out all those small discrepancies before you launch a product. But right now, we are looking to increase our own product offering on our website. So we currently have 7 different meals. We launched 1/8 meal last week as an exclusive limited edition. It was a steamed pork belly with salted vegetables. And this was a very unique dish because it's all the comfort food of the Hakka people in China. And so it's kind of more unique and more provincial. You won't really find it anywhere on a menu in most Chinese restaurants. And it's sold out in 1 week. So we're currently looking at adding new food offerings, but through the same restaurant, just to keep our customers happy and more entertained with different interests.
So everything at the moment is ordered through the restaurant, through your website. Sorry.
Yeah. So everything goes through altafoods.co.uk, and then I'm more or less bootstrapping this whole operation myself. So say all the orders come in, if they come in before 12 o'clock on any day, they have a chance of being delivered the same day if they're within London. Otherwise, they deliver the next day. And because petrol is cheap, there's no traffic, there's no congestion charge. So I'm strapping everything myself, doing deliveries myself, packaging everything myself. So we more or less batch cook a whole new stock every single week, purely because we now, after 3 weeks, we kind of know what the average order per week is and how much we have to produce. And everything is then blast chilled frozen and then shipped out. And we do nationwide deliveries as well. But as long as the customer knows that it might not arrive frozen by the time it gets to them, then it's fine.
Okay. And obviously we're in lockdown at the moment,
yeah.
And I was reading some research on the food industry earlier, and they were saying that there's been a huge spike in ready-made meals.
Yes.
And I mean, this is, perfect for your kind of food that you're making.
Yeah.
And I think with your food, it's so unique as well. So I think there's going to be a lot of people going to be trying this food for the first time, trying these unique dishes. And then also people that do eat the food and know about the dishes are going to be so excited because they can get hold of it.
Right, exactly. So I mean, there are a lot of ready-made meal competitors out there, to be honest. You have a lot of great companies which they both do ready-made meals, and some which also do sort of pre-cooked meals tailored to your own calorific intake. And where this is different is we want to bring restaurant quality meals to your doorstep. So if you think about restaurants like that use Deliveroo, Just Eat, they're quite limited on a delivery basis because Deliveroo, Just Eat, these companies, they give you a fixed radius for where they can deliver to. And that's because restaurants sell takeaway fresh. Whereas with my products, because they're frozen, they're very easily accessible to anyone. So I've sent a few goods to Essex from London, and they didn't arrive frozen, but they arrived cold. And we do our best to ensure that the packaging is packed so that there's no temperature change whatsoever. And the person who ate it a few days after said it was great. And I think that itself is it's almost quite revolutionary because now a customer who lives outside of London has now had a taste of the products from a restaurant in London. And so perhaps there's an argument of maybe the next time they go to London and they're in town, they might go, hey, I checked out this really cool frozen product from this restaurant. Why don't we actually go there and see what else they offer fresh in their restaurant? And with our customer base, so we are targeting people who are Asian, who they can't get the food that they normally get at home. So it's kind of like a home away from home comfort food. But there are also other people, like with the lockdown virus, there are people who are placed into a household and now they have to cook and they don't really want
Yeah.
to cook or they don't know how to cook. People who don't want to go out in fear of the virus, people who want something cheap and efficient. And so this product kind of targets all of those markets. And I've had a great feedback from everyone saying it's both really cheap, really efficient. Take out the freezer, boil it. That's it. There's not much cleaning to do, not much prep to do, and that's why I like to stress on our Instagram with the marketing that these meals are for your convenience. Don't stress for 2 hours thinking about what to cook for your husband or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your kids. All you have to do is look in your freezer and take out one or two of these pouches, and that's it. Dinner's served.
Yeah.
So,
It's true. And the other thing I was saying is, I mean, this is a great idea. So if other restaurants that, not just the Asian foods, if other restaurants obviously going to see this and
yeah.
be like, okay, we want to distribute our food, is this something that you will maybe do in the future, or are you just keeping it the Asian food at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, so the name Alta Foods actually stands for Alternative Asian, purely because, as I said before, I was quite annoyed at how people always chose the same generic Chinese Asian food, and this is like an alternative choice to those options. And second of all, it's not really a revolutionary way of eating, but it's an alternative way of eating. I think frozen meals have been associated with some sort of negative press in the past about not being fresh, but actually freezing food prolongs its shelf life, and it doesn't affect the texture or quality if it's done right. Um, for now, I would like to focus on just the Asian market, and that's because a lot of competitors out there who really do ready frozen made meals, they do all sorts of cuisines, Italian and Western. And I think to compete with that would be a bit of a hard market to compete with. Whereas with Asian, it's more niche, it's more unique, and that's where my foundations are as well. So that's something I can say with confidence that I can really build up there. But that being said, um, who knows? If it goes on post lockdown and it scales up, I would love to collaborate with different restaurants and chefs and to see what we can do together.
Yeah, that's great. And at the moment, you advertising through the social media, so Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Yeah, surprisingly, I've done very little marketing work in terms of paid ads. Um, I mainly have seen a lot of sales come from word of mouth. So every time a customer buys one of our products, they are given their unique discount code, and this discount code is acting as their referral code. So anyone who uses that code will get 10% off, and each time the code is used, that customer who has the code and owns the code gets £5 credit to use. So it's a great way to spread it by word of mouth and for a neat way to say to our customers, thank you for promoting, here's £5 credit every time.
Of course, I mean, they put it next to next meal.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You promote to six of your friends, and you get 30 pounds worth of credit. You can buy yourself, a whole week's worth of meals. Um, and I have because I have worked with a lot of food blogs as well. They've been really great at getting some competitions up, socials, just to get the word out there. But that's mainly where I've seen the marketing coming from.
Okay. And the other thing is your pricing range.
Yeah.
Where do you sit with your pricing? You were saying that it's quite cheap. So is
Yeah.
that you just said £30 for a week?
Yeah. So on our website, roughly our products range from around £5.50, and the most is around £11 right now. The limited edition 8th dish, which sold out, was £14, but that was more exclusive.
Yes.
So in terms of pricing, compared to restaurant takeaway meals or delivery apps, our pricing is cheaper purely because it's frozen and it's not sort of, it doesn't come fresh. You have to cook it yourself and reheat it. But that being said, the texture and the quality is exactly the same. And a lot of people have said it's just as good, if not better, because when you get delivery, there's a chance which your food might arrive cold. But with this, because you're cooking it in your own house, you're reheating it, it's always going to be hot. And that's even better than paying a premium for delivery. So we're not as cheap as say your Tesco ready-made meals in the supermarket, but we also work with really established restaurants. So there is a premium aspect of that brand as well. But we are also cheaper than the restaurant's takeaway menu. So we sit in that middle price point, which is quite nice. The £30 is just a minimum order value to ensure delivery charges.
Yes.
So £30 can get you roughly 6 meals to 7 meals. And yeah, and our order pouches come in two different sizes. So the small is perfect for just one person. The large is perfect for 2 to 3 people. And people tend to order quite a few bits of both just to experiment and play around with, and they come back and reorder what they liked and in bigger quantities.
Is there anything else you want to just push out there before we head off?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone is interested in checking us out, please do give us a look on our website. We do deliver to nationwide outside of London as well, but just bear in mind that the goods might not come frozen, but they will be packaged to ensure that temperature is kept to a minimum during transit, and it will be delivered next day.
Right, thank you, Lucas. Thank you
Thank
for
you, Ruth.
joining us on Business Talks.
Thanks so much.